you. You're back playing Logan again. How does
Yep.
it feel to return to the Wolverine?
I got to tell you, I had more fun than ever.
No?
I don't know what it is. Maybe being a little older helps, playing a character who's 200 or 300 years old. I think also shooting a movie based on the Japanese saga, the samurai story, which is something I'd wanted to shoot for 13 years, and finally getting to do that with James Mangold, who is a director I know and is a great mate. Everything about it I was really happy about and enjoying, and weirdly, I mean, I complain, I'm an actor, I complain all the time about waking up and training, but I really am enjoying it.
Yeah, the training regimen, I would imagine, is pretty intense and grueling.
Well, I actually rang my mate Dwayne Johnson and I said, Dwayne, because I'd lost a lot of weight for Les Mis, and I was sort of ready to go on Wolverine, so I was in shape. Then I had to lose, and I rang him. I said, mate, what do I do? And he goes, you need 6 months to get all that lean muscle back. You need to train for 3 hours a day. You need 6,000 calories a day, and you need 6 months. So, I basically followed that. That guy's insane, let me tell you. He's crazy. You're crazy.
But he knows what he's doing.
He's been a great mate, actually. He helped me out a lot. Of course, I have trained. I mean, I'm an actor. I get people to help me, and I complain all non-stop, and here we are.
Now, you were instrumental in bringing James Mangold on to direct the film. Why was he the right filmmaker for this project?
Well, I really felt we wanted to make something fresh, something standalone. I was thrilled. It wasn't Jim's idea or mine. It was actually Darren Aronofsky's idea to call it the Wolverine back when he was on. And it was something that the studio and I told Darren, I said, I'm nicking that idea, because in a way it's emblematic of what we're trying to do. Really create a movie about this character. So it doesn't matter if you have or if you haven't seen any of the others, this stands alone. This is the Wolverine. And when you want to focus on not just action, but story, character, plot, Jim is as good as there is out there, Also for me as an actor, I wanted someone who would push me, take me to places that I hadn't gone to, and there's always a temptation when you've been doing something for a while to do more rather than less, and right. Jim was really great in that way, and he was the perfect director for this movie.
Well, he's talked a lot about how he took inspiration from film noir and westerns, and specifically the Outlaw Josey Wales. And
yes.
Was that something that you really tapped into as well?
Absolutely. He kept saying we need a more restrained, more interior. Of course, there's all that berserker rage. That's what makes him, defines Logan. This very human quality, not superhuman quality of this, all his pain and his past and destruction and loneliness is all channeled into this rage. But he kept saying, he goes, for the rage to pay off, we have to restrain it. What's interesting about him is the 10, 20 seconds before he actually lets loose. That thing where people know it's coming, but it doesn't. That's the key moments. And he kept really encouraging me to work on those, to intensify, to deepen it.
Has your approach to playing this character changed over the years?
Yeah, I think it has. I mean, I know a lot more about him than I did when I first began, because I never read the comic book. But I think my approach in general to film has changed. This was the first film I ever did in America, so as I've hopefully grown as an actor over 13 years, hopefully my playing of the character has grown, and I was just thrilled in this movie to actually have more of a scope without, and it's going to sound selfish, but without having too many other characters and other mutants. I felt like the first Wolverine, for better or worse, probably ended up feeling like another X-Men movie rather than just concentrating on the character. So there was more, meat for me to play with here.
Well, and this storyline is one that's, I think, so revered in terms of the history of the character, and you had said that you were excited to play it from the moment that you were originally cast.
Yeah. Well, I just always think the guy who is the outsider, the emblematic in a way of anti-authority, anti-tradition, anti-honor, anti-code, is in Japan with all these samurais and ninjas where the opposite is true, is fantastic. I think in many ways the backdrop of Japan, and Japan really does play another character in this movie, the history as well as the modern side of it, really I think is a perfect juxtaposition for this guy who, he doesn't think, he's emotional. He acts and then has to deal with the fallout from it. He fights in an instinctive, guttural, animalistic way, fighting against these samurais who, what they've mastered is their mind, who really learn to understand that and become formidable because of it. And I think having him in that world was really important.
Well, I think one of the things that really sets the film apart is the Japanese location, the international cast. You rarely see comic book movies that have this many Japanese subtitles on the screen.
Yes, right.
It's really refreshing.
Well, no, I mean, really, it's a great story. It's a great backdrop. Japan is, for someone who's been there 11 times, is always mysterious, enigmatic, charismatic, and just different to anywhere else. And you're right, to have a completely sort of international cast, many of which audiences won't know. I mean, look, Hiro Sanada-san has done 60 movies in Japan. Of course, he's an icon there, but Tao and Rila have never been in a movie, period. Even the Japanese audiences are going to be surprised by them. And I think that really helps the audience go with Logan, with Wolverine, into this world as outsiders.
Right, and you mentioned the women in the movie, and it's so refreshing to see women who can take charge and be empowered in a film, and I'm wondering if you could speak to that a little bit.
You know, one of the things I talked about early on with Jim was, it's endemic to the comic book that Wolverine's saving grace and his kryptonite is women, right? Not just his anger, but women, and we really haven't, apart from Jean Grey, we haven't really explored it. So in this movie there are 4 great female characters, and I think you actually get, in a way, a really satisfying look at what the Jean Grey relationship meant to him. At the end of X-Men 3, he kills the love of his life, roll credits, you know, so finally we get a chance to see what that means to him, what it is to be haunted by something like that. Rila and Tao, Yuko kind of plays, I mean, his bodyguard, but also friend, you know, I mean, you'd have to argue Yuko might have a bit of a crush going there, but Mariko is a more traditional romance. Then you have Svetlana playing Viper, who's just completely badass. So, I mean, there really is a lot of women in this, and I have to say, both for the character and as the actor, it was refreshing.
Yeah, I can imagine there were probably some fun moments, especially with in the Yukio scenes.
Yes, a lot of fun. I mean, you know, Rila, who plays Yuko, which is, the fans will always love that character. It's a great character. She is just so unexpected. In every scene, you don't know what she's going to do. And I think that relationship between the two of them really, you know, we had great chemistry, and it really, you know, hats off to Jim Mangold for having the guts and the foresight to cast the best person for the role and not cast a known entity, you know.
And what was the experience actually like of shooting the film in Japan?
Shooting in Japan is as fantastic as visiting Japan. It's also, you know, it's not easy. There's not a lot of film shot there, and everything we shot was on location. So there was weather, there was people. I mean, when we shot the very first day, one of the first scenes we shot was at the Tokyo subway station. Right? We had no extras. We shot midweek, 7:30 in the morning, peak hour, at the busiest subway station in Tokyo. And what's amazing is, you know, in New York or most places in the world, they've got security. It was literally a steady cam, me, the actors, a couple of people, monitors, because no one cares who you are. When they're on their way to work in Japan, that's all that matters. Honestly, the only looks you ever get is just of annoyance. Get out of my way.
Right. I would imagine in some ways that might be a refreshing change.
Very refreshing. No, I mean, and we shot down in beautiful parts of Japan. We shot Tomonora, this little fishing village in the middle of summer. Something I will never forget. I mean, I remember turning up there at the hotel, and they were very apologetic because they'd heard what I eat, and I'm on a very restrictive diet. And they said, "We're very sorry, if you want a Western breakfast, we need 3 days notice." And I was like, wow, that's for a boiled egg. That's, you know, we are really out of Tokyo now.
The fight scenes, I think, of the film are really impressive. And this isn't a movie that has a ton of computer-generated effects.
Right.
Everything feels very visceral and real. What was that experience like, shooting those fight scenes?
One of our goals for this movie is, I mean, this movie is not wall-to-wall mutants. You don't have people flying around and changing colors or shooting lasers out of their eyes. It is very human, because that's who Wolverine is. He can't jump, he can't fly, he has claws, and he can heal himself. So all the fights, we wanted them to be inventive, spectacular, without feeling massive CGI. We wanted to feel real, we wanted to feel visceral, as you said, and Jim just totally pulled that off. My favorite, well, there's several fight scenes I love in this. The fight with Shingen in the hallway, which is shot beautifully, and we actually shot with the real claws, with the real sword, which is really amazing. That hero, I mean, he can stop a sword this far from your face 10 out of 10 times, and that, but the bullet train sequence, to me, is such a great example of what this movie's about. And if you watch the movie, I didn't notice this, and that's why I'm excited to tell you. when we exit the train, on the bullet train, which goes 200 miles an hour, and we land on top of the train, the soundtrack stops. So that was Jim's idea, and normally in a big action sequence, in a big sort of blockbuster movie, it's relentless. The soundtrack's just going, stops. And it's really, you can only do that when what you're shooting is interesting, character-filled, with some lighter moments, with intense moments. And I think it's a great scene to kind of describe what this movie's about. Spectacular, yes. Inventive, creative, yes. But real, human, visceral.
Now, you're shooting Days of Future Past right now.
Right.
Are there things about playing Logan that still can surprise you at this point?
Oh, yeah. I mean, to me, he's eternally surprising. There's a great deal of history. There's a great deal about him which I personally, I love. For me, he reminds me of the characters I loved growing up. Dirty Harry, Mad Max. He doesn't speak a lot, but there's, in many ways, yes, he's tough and yes, he's cool, but there's a lot going on under the surface. Right. So all the coolness, even a quip, all that stuff, all the badass moments, all get fueled by some real complexity and real sort of emotional trauma. So I wouldn't be playing it otherwise. He wouldn't still be interesting to me after 13 years. And as I said at the beginning, I wouldn't be loving it so much if it wasn't for that.
Do you see a point where maybe you're going to want to say goodbye to that character? Sure.
I mean, I don't know when that point is, but it's a great role. It's a great part, and great parts always outlive the actors who play them. That's the rule, and I remember that all the time when I'm here at Comic-Con. I honestly feel a great sense of gratitude, and I don't want to take anything for granted. This may be the last time I'm here presenting Wolverine. You never know when that moment will come. So, of course it'll end. Someone will reboot it, and it'll be a difficult film for me to go and watch, but I'll wish them well.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What kind of monster are you? The Wolverine.